Welcome back. Now the British have handed over Basra, it's expected there'll be political deals among the Shia factions, deals that might prevent further violence. The city has been driven by rivalries between a number of players. The loyalists of Shia leader Muqtada al-Sadr, his movement and the Mahdi army militias enjoy a wide range of popular support. They're also accused, though, of using violence to impose strict Islamic rules. The Supreme Islamic Iraqi Council of Abdulaziz al-Hakim also has a strong following in Basra. Hakim followers engaged in a power struggle with Sadr's Mahdi army. The Supreme Council advocates the Federation of Iraq, thus creating a federal region in southern Iraq with a significant degree of autonomy. And finally, the Fadila party, small but controls the position of governor of Basra and has great influence in the southern oil company. The party favours autonomy for the city. Still with us, our guests in Doha, Colonel Alistair Campbell, former British Defence Attaché in Baghdad, currently the director of the Royal United Services Institute here in Doha, and over in Beirut, Faleh Abdel-Jabbar, an Iraqi author and director of the Iraq Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you for staying with us. Faleh Abdel-Jabbar in Beirut, I'd like to go to you first. Is it the militias who hold the future for Basra rather than the Iraqi government and Iraqi forces?
Yes and no. I mean, the Iraqization of the security and the process, the political process that was initiated by the Bush administration back in 2004, starting with the drafting of the constitution, then going to the ballot, was meant to take the wind out of insurgency, inclusive of the, of course, Sunni and Shi'i insurgency. But what we had since 2005 is that most of the Shi'i forces and the Sunni forces have one foot in institutional politics and another foot in the militia extra-institutional illegal activities. And I don't think this will just disappear simply because the British, handed over security to the Iraqi authorities in Basra. The problem is that the sundry currents in Basra are not confined to these three forces that you've just mentioned. We should also add to it the Iranian-Saudi rivalry and the concern all over the Gulf over the growing Iranian influence in Iraq and in Basra in particular. We should add to this also the fact that Basra, that was once an urban society, a very civilized and very secular, has been turned into a Taliban-like province on the one hand. On the other, there is the creeping tribes from the adjacent province of Amara. And some tribes have even rocket launchers, and they have their own militias and their own security services to sell in the negative and positive senses of the word. So we have to take all these factors into consideration when looking at the whole situation.
Okay, then let me just stop you there. You mentioned the Iranian agenda. I'd like to put that to Colonel Alistair Campbell in Doha. What do you think about the Iranian influence? Do you think this is a possibility or a chance for them to spread their influence in Iraq?
Well, there's always a chance that will happen, but I firmly believe that the Iranian influence is overestimated, that the Iraqis a lot of the time have been blaming Iran for things that really their own fault. I also think that Iraqis are very proud people. They don't want to become Iranian. They want to control that influence. They may exploit Iranian bits and pieces here and there to further their own particular militias or causes. But I think in the end, Iraqis want to be Iraqi. They don't want to be Iranian. Secondly, I would just say that I have a great deal of optimism at the moment. Okay, it's quite chaotic, and I think your correspondent from Beirut has indicated the complexity of it all. But take Muqtada al-Sadr. He all the time wants to be seen as a mainstream, serious political leader. Well, now is his chance. If he can renounce the violence, if he can take the political course, there's every chance that he and Hakim and the Fadila party and others will be able to get some sort of reconciliation and make Basra work.
But you prefaced all that with if, Colonel. Do you think they actually can or would want to?
I think we have to remain optimistic. I think there is a big if, and I'm quite realistic at the same time, but I think the opportunity is here. Now that the provincial authority have control over their own security, they've got real sovereignty, and they can make things work.
Faleh Abdel-Jabbar, Colonel Campbell there alluded to some of the names which we mentioned earlier, Muqtada al-Sadr, Abdulaziz al-Hakim. Who do you think perhaps is the most influential, the most critical to the future of Basra?
Well, both Hakim on the one hand, Muqtada on the other, and there is the third unnamed current, and that's the Basrite proper. I mean, Basra is not so, for this kind of Shi'i, pan-Shi'i federalism of the South, which means it is against any influence exercised from Najaf. On the other hand, Muqtada is, raising some Iraqi slogans, Iraqi nationalism slogans, and he's not for federalism. And in these two strands of political practices, do not resonate with the feelings of the Basra as far as I know them. And that would create, in the long run, of course, medium and long run, create troubles for both of them. But having said that, at the moment, the rivalry between the two will be fiercer. Whether or not it will be peaceful is another matter. I don't know.
Personalities
most
aside,
probably there'll be skirmishes, most probably.
Right, and personalities aside, you mentioned skirmishes there. The fact that these militias are very well armed groups. In fact, I've read a quote from the Basra police chief who's admitted the militias are better armed than his men. Should that not be a huge concern, and one which should maybe even override the idea of the Iraqis being able to take control of the area?
Is that the question to me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I think so. I agree with all this, evaluations that even the Iraqi army is much less equipped and trained, and even in terms of motivation, it's weaker than the militias taken together. And at one point there was talk about creating an awakening, the Sahwa thing that was experienced in Anbar. Which means that there is a strong need to deal with the militias with the iron fist. And I do believe that things will not go normal. Normalcy will not be retrieved until the militias are decommissioned. That's a vital and basic precondition.
Right, let's get a final thought from both our guests now. I will start with you, Fala Abdel-Jabbar in Beirut. Muwafaq al-Rubai, the Iraqi National Security Advisor, said this today. He said, this means a victory for Iraq and defeat for its enemies. Is it really as easy as saying that?
In a sense, yes. I mean, look at our neighbors. Most of our neighbors are, saying this. One, that Iraq, all violence in Iraq is because of the occupation. Now the occupation is going. So, I mean, this is one step forward in allaying the fears and, addressing the allegations. On the other hand, I would be more cautious in saying that. Some of our neighbors also use this, the violence and the chaos in Iraq to say, look, this is democracy, this is what brings, it's messy, it's dangerous, etc., etc. Of course, they are involved in part of the sectarian war that has been going on.
Let me just stop you there. Final word to Colonel Alistair Campbell. We've just got about 30 seconds left. Victory for Iraq?
Well, I would say that it's a useful soundbite from Muwafaq al-Rubai, but actually not very accurate. I see this again simply as a step forward in the process, an encouraging, symbolic step forward, and one that presents opportunities. And let's hope the Iraqi people, it is up to them now, will be able to take advantage of these opportunities. Colonel
Alistair Campbell here in Doha, Faleh Abdel-Jabbar in Beirut. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us.
Thank you.
And as always, thank you for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. As always, you can email them to insidestory@aljazeera.net. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye for now.